speak on topics that has nothing to do with the game of basketball. That's probably why they sent her ass clean out of New York. She had to go. She talked too much. That is Natasha Cloud, man. Natasha Cloud is making waves online today. And I'm telling you right now, we need to blow this up. This has to get blown up because Caitlin Clark was on the bench. She was on the bench. Now, this young lady right here had an epic crash out. Epic crash out, bro.
Fresh chaos is brewing in the NBA once again. Right on schedule, Caitlin Clark opened up during a press session, and her comments got twisted around by a lot of people online. That's something worth touching on later, but first, the bigger issue needs addressing. 1BA officiating, a topic that has followed the league for the past 2.5 seasons, with referees repeatedly shaping outcomes through their calls. Everyone remembers not long ago when Caitlin Clark got hit with a technical simply for clapping her hands. Around that same stretch, other players, including Amber Wall, kicked the scorer's table and acted out in far more extreme ways, without facing ejection or any real consequence.
And it's just beyond me how Caitlin Clark conducts herself like a professional. And she got a damn technical for clapping. The catch in the post. Natasha Cloud out here crashing out and clapping in front of the officials, but she didn't get a tech. Even the announcer was shocked. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Let's watch this.
Frustrated on that one. She's got to be careful clapping. Yes.
Officials let it slide. Now here comes another chapter in this ongoing league drama. A player clapped directly toward an official and walked away with 0 penalty. And this happens to be someone who draws plenty of criticism. A young woman known for speaking on subjects that have nothing to do with basketball itself. That's likely part of why her time in New York ended. She spoke up too much and it cost her a roster spot. That player is Natasha Cloud, and she's trending hard right now.
And officials, I have seen technicals be assessed for that action. Yes. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. I think her teammates helped her off the court quickly enough to where just in the nick of time.
Now, Caitlin Clark wasn't even on the court when she got hurt.
Be careful clapping.
Now, when Caitlin Clark got her technical foul, she wasn't even on the court.
This story needs maximum attention because Caitlin Clark wasn't even on the floor when this happened. She was seated on the bench. Meanwhile, this other player had a full-blown meltdown on the court, an absolute outburst. It's wild to compare that with how composed Clark carries herself, especially considering Clark earned a technical just for a simple clap. Cloud, on the other hand, melted down entirely and clapped straight at the officiating crew with no technical assessed. Broadcasters covering the game were stunned too.
Now, when Caitlin Clark got her technical foul, she wasn't even on the court. She wasn't even on the court. Mind you, she was on the bench. Let's read this. The referees have been instructed to turn down Caitlin Clark. All other get a pass. The only player in history, other W, to get a technical foul for clapping. Caitlin, 30 years into the league existence, that the W version of Shanae's sisterhood. Yeah, it definitely is. Is it the same referee refs the tech Caitlin Clark received for?
Apparently, enforcement changes depending on who's involved. Take a look at this clip. Announcer voice. Frustration boiling over there. She needs to watch that clapping. Officials have handed out technicals for that exact gesture before.
Is it the same referee refs the tech Caitlin Clark received for clapping needs to be outed? I mean, refs, the technical need to be overturned, and this video Cloud is clapping, and refs did nothing. Be consistent. Facts. Somebody else said it had a very similar one versus the Liberty a few weeks ago. They didn't call that either. Selective enforcement it's the law of the land, just like slapping stations. Yes, for CC. Yeah, bro.
Yes. Sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. Her teammates got her off the floor quickly enough before things escalated further. Remember, Caitlin Clark wasn't even active on the floor during her incident either. She was sitting out. Watch that clapping.
I don't know. When it comes to Natasha Cloud, somebody said the game can do what she want. Duh, laughing. off. She looked crazy. Valid crash out. She stole the ball, and the refs gave Aces a timeout. Hater. It don't matter at all. Excuse me. Caitlin got a technical foul for clapping. So I don't care what nobody say. Now, moving on to the department of Caitlin Clark.
When Clark picked up her technical, she wasn't playing at that moment, she was benched. Here's a comment worth reading. Referees have apparently been told to crack down hard on Clark while everyone else skates by. She stands as the only player in league history penalized for applauding. 30 years of league history, and this is somehow the version of sisterhood the 1BA wants to showcase. Definitely feels that way.
Caitlin Clark, we have to talk about what she said yesterday. Now, I have not seen the clip in its entirety because, damn me, it's like, I don't know, over 10 minutes long. Let's watch some of it. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm going to give you guys my reaction to it because we have to cover it. I didn't cover it yesterday. Let's see here. Here we go. 5 minutes.
And obviously I haven't been available for like a
Same officiating crew both times? That technical against Clark needs to be reversed. People are calling for it directly in this clip, saying Cloud clapped and nothing happened, calling for consistency across the board. Someone else pointed out a nearly identical situation happened against the Liberty a few weeks back, and it also went uncalled, chalking it up to selective enforcement, calling it standard practice at this point. One commenter joked Cloud can do whatever she wants apparently.
and obviously I haven't been available for like a week or so. So, first of all, I know what you guys are going to ask, and I did think it was a flagrant foul. And our reffing just needs to be better. And, you know, it's tough. Obviously, the refs are in a really difficult spot. You know, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, in my opinion, is to make calls. All you do is get yelled at the whole time by everybody. You're never winning. So I think for us, like, as the league's just got to do better, protecting our players in that regard. I don't really think that it was up for debate. Obviously, it wasn't called in real time. You go back and watch.
Another said she looked unhinged out there, calling it a total blow-up. Someone else brought up how a different player stole the ball and the officials still awarded a timeout to the opposing squad anyway, calling it favoritism. Others dismissed the outrage entirely. Still, plenty maintain Clark got flagged for a clap, and that fact alone speaks volumes, regardless of what anyone argues otherwise.
As the Phoenix Mercury is getting destroyed. Let's start here. By the way, happy Independence Day. America 250, SOBs, yeah! Woo! Let's go, let's ride. So, let's start with a ESPN legend. And look, I stopped really consuming ESPN many years ago, but there have been some personality.
Shifting over to Clark's own remarks from the previous day. The full interview runs past 10 minutes, so only portions will be covered here, rather than the entire thing, just reactions to the key moments, since this wasn't addressed yesterday. Here's a chunk of it. Clark, she hadn't played in roughly a week, and she knew reporters would ask about the flagrant foul, confirming she believed it qualified as one.
There have been some personalities that have come through the network that are just legendary. Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, Stuart Scott, Linda Cohen. All right. And she just recently, after 34 years of doing SportsCenter, retired. All right. Retired from ESPN. She looks better today than in 1992. I was like, wow.
She noted officiating overall needs improvement, acknowledging how tough the job is, one of the hardest roles anywhere since referees only ever get criticized no matter the outcome. She said the league needs to do a better job shielding players in these situations, adding it wasn't really debatable given the replay evidence. It's been discussed for roughly 3 years now, she said, without much changing afterward, despite teams submitting footage. Referees should get compensated fairly too, she added, suggesting better technology and better pay might help, since they're currently...
That's unbelievable. You aged backwards somehow. But that's awesome. She literally did her first SportsCenter when I was 15 years old. I mean, a sophomore in high school. That's wild. That's wild. So she made some comments about Caitlin Clark and about Alyssa Thomas. And if you listen, this is the same.
Everyone else already got paid appropriately, so maybe officials deserve the same treatment. There's sympathy for that argument, but it also seems like referees are intentionally ignoring specific fouls against Clark, plain and simple. Some claim there's no real pattern targeting her, but that's hard to buy. Clark continued, addressing harassment and hate directed at her or anyone else, saying none of it is acceptable, whether aimed at opposing teams, her own teammates, or coaching staff, adding character should never be questioned, and that's how she was raised.
About Caitlin Clark and about Alyssa Thomas. And if you listen, this is the same thing I said the other day when Alyssa Thomas claimed that she was getting death threats and all this kind of thing. Well, you reported those to the FBI, correct? All pertinent law enforcement are involved in the apprehension of the nearly dozen threats or slurs you received on a story that had 100 million views on it. Linda Cohen.
She admitted the frustration gets heavy sometimes, noting people often assume she's emotionless, which isn't true. She has real feelings and struggles at times, more than she shows publicly. She's 24 and still adjusting to a lot, 4 years into this league now, and wouldn't trade any of it, despite the hard parts, hoping people remember that human side too. She mentioned catching a broadcast days after a specific game, and noticing commentators still fixated on the same storyline, calling it unfair to the league overall. She understands discussion is inevitable, but felt the narrative dragging on elsewhere became genuinely unacceptable, tough to watch, and unfair not just to her squad, but to every other team and player putting in great performances across the league.
Linda Cohen comes out and asks the question. You did turn that stuff over, right? Hey, we're right here. We're right here, Linda Cohen. We know exactly what you're thinking when you make a comment like that. Also, she talks about the fact that Caitlin Clark took the high road, but Caitlin Clark really and truly squashed the officiating in this league.
Ever notice when Caitlin Clark is the victim, she never plays the role of the victim? She
recalled watching other games during that stretch and feeling for the athletes competing while everyone else obsessed over the controversy, and felt for her own teammates who played an excellent game that same weekend and got zero recognition because attention stayed elsewhere. Plenty of other matchups had already happened by that point too, she noted, saying it falls on everyone to redirect focus and that doing so would help the league grow further, mentioning her own team and the passionate fans who show up everywhere, home or away, including younger fans watching who shouldn't be forgotten, expressing gratitude toward an organization that supports her fully. She brought up seeing a headline claiming her season had been nothing but frustration, saying that mischaracterized things entirely since nobody had actually asked her that directly, encouraging people to discuss her performance instead, good or bad, acknowledging other topics matter too, but hoping focus shifts back toward positivity, adding the world could use more of that. She then addressed her health status, confirming she'll sit out the next game but feels much improved, looking forward to returning to practice, and eventually games again despite the challenge of a back-to-back schedule, expressing that the recovery week benefited her overall condition.
Notice when Caitlin Clark is the victim, she never plays the role of the victim. She spoke up publicly for the first time since Alyssa Thomas came out publicly and said she's been getting death threats to her and her family, and there has been racial slurs thrown at her. What I want to know, Alyssa Thomas, have you reported this to the police? Have you reported this to the FBI? Because they'll get on it and they'll find who's responsible. But back to Caitlin Clark. She always takes the high road in these situations. She did it back in the day.
Very subtle.
She wrapped up mentioning how her comments echoed something Coach Stephanie White had said previously, inviting more thoughts on the matter before signing off for the day. The Phoenix Mercury shared a post celebrating their assist totals, and the wording briefly tripped up readers who misread it as something far more serious. To be fair, the team does sit near the top of the league in that category, though not by a wide margin. The reaction across social media quickly turned into a wave of jokes and jabs, and one veteran broadcaster's comments stood out from the rest.
She did it back in the day.
Very subtle, but there's a reason we all said that. Okay, there's a reason. I'm gonna be real. I want to see the receipts. Annie Constable, The Athletic. We're gonna learn what happened involving those racial slurs, right? Or I bet we don't.
With Angel Reese, all these controversies. I love what Caitlin Clark.
A longtime face of sports television recently stepped away from her network role after more than 3 decades on the air. Fans have noted she looks remarkably youthful for someone who's been delivering highlights since the early 90s. Her first broadcast aired when many current viewers were still in high school. That broadcaster weighed in on both Caitlin Clark and Alyssa Thomas.
I love what Caitlin Clark said. I do love that she took the high road here, saying this cannot happen to any player in the league, no matter what the situation is, players, coaches, whatever. But she also took the time, which I loved, to basically told the league to be better communicating. She also mentioned the officiating very subtly. I'm going to say it with an exclamation point. The bad officiating in the WNBA has led to most of this minutia. Yeah.
When Thomas earlier stated she had received threatening messages and racially charged abuse toward her and her family, the broadcaster's response carried a pointed edge, essentially asking whether the claims had been formally reported to authorities. The framing struck many as a subtle way of casting doubt rather than expressing concern, and viewers picked up on that immediately. The broadcaster also praised Clark for staying above the fray during the controversy, noting